It is well known that God manifests His names and attributes in the whole cosmos to reveal Himself, with the result that from this perspective, God is knowable in the whole cosmos. Hence, God is similar to the whole cosmos. The whole cosmos becomes signs of God through which one can know God. By gazing at the whole cosmos, one sees God. Nevertheless, in terms of His essence, God is incomparable beyond the whole cosmos, and no one knows Him because He is beyond the reach of any knowledge and cannot be expressed by any word. These aspects of God, similarity and incomparability, in Ibn Arabi's view, reveal to us the true knowledge of God. We are now discussing Tanzih, his incomparability, and Tashbih, his similarity. First of all, we need to know the meaning of these two key terms. Tanzih, incomparability, in Arabic derives from the verb nazaha, which means to keep something away from something polluting, something impure, whereas Tashbih derives from the verb shabbaha, which means to liken or consider something similar to another. These two terms are used within the scope of Islamic theology, Ilmul Kalam. Muslim theologians use the first term, Tanzih, to assert that God is beyond any attribute or quality possessed by His creatures. In other words, Tanzih emphasizes the absolute difference between God and the whole cosmos, so that God cannot be known except by negative expressions. While the second term, Tashbih, is used by theologians to state that at some level, God has similarity to humans and cosmos. In other words, Tashbih confirms that there are certain similarities to be found between God and His creatures. Scholars in the science of Kalam or Islamic theology argue with each other on this issue. Those who hold the incomparability of God, Tanzih, accuse those who hold the similarity of God, Tashbih, of being heretic, and vice versa. That God's hand, God's chair, God's eye, and so on that can be found in the Quran, according to the proponents of incomparability, should not be interpreted literally because they are only metaphorical. So they need to be interpreted, ta'wil, in such a way that we don't equate God with His creatures. Meanwhile, on the other hand, the proponents of similarity, Tashbih, argue that the word God's hand must still be interpreted as hand, but humans don't know the form or like what God's hand looks. And they state that interpretation or ta'wil is a misguidance because ta'wil or interpretation is only known by God. Ibn Arabi was dissatisfied with the explanations of any theological school, both the proponent of Tanzih and the proponent of Tashbih, because the first school emphasizes incomparability so much that they negate similarity, while the second emphasizes similarity that they negate incomparability. Using both terms, which was from the science of Kalam, Ibn Arabi injected his own mystical knowledge into it. In Ibn Arabi's terms, Tanzih denotes aspects of God's absoluteness, while Tashbih denotes aspects of God's limitation. Viewed from His essence, God is unknowable because He is beyond anything in the cosmos and in human knowledge. Hence, God cannot be described, depicted, and even thought about. Ibn Arabi says, Tanzih is that Al-Haq has nothing to do with the nature of anything new or created. However, viewed from His names and attributes manifested in the whole cosmos, Al-Haq or God to a certain degree is indeed similar, mushabbah, to His creatures. We must remember that Al-Haq is the one who manifests in the whole cosmos, which is the locus of the manifestation. So the locus of manifestation, even in the smallest degree, has similarity to those who manifests. This means that the cosmos are forms of self-manifestation of Al-Haq in terms of the visible name. If in the Quran it is said that God is all-hearing, As-Sami, and all-seeing, Al-Basir, it means that by manifesting Himself in the whole cosmos, Al-Haq hears and sees in every form who and which hears and sees. In other words, Al-Haq becomes the substance of everything which and who hears and sees. Ibn Arabi in Fusus says, human acts are divided amongst 8 organs. Al-Haq informed us that He is the essence of every organ. Hence, the agent of human acts is solely Al-Haq, where the form of the act belongs to the servant. The essence is contained in him, the servant, that is only his name, because he is the essence of what is manifested. On another page, he decidedly asserts, Know that whenever something permeates another, it is assumed into the other. That which permeates the agent is disguised by that which is permeated, the object of permeation. Thus, the object in this case is the manifest, while the agent is the unmanifest, the hidden. The latter is as nourishment for the former, even as a piece of wool swells and expands because of the water that permeates it. If Al-Haq is the manifest, then the created human being is hidden in him, and as a result, the created embraces all the names of Al-Haq, his hearing, seeing, all his relationships and perceptions. If the created is the manifest, Al-Haq is concealed and hidden in him. Al-Haq then is the hearing of the created, his seeing, hand, foot, and all his faculties. In Ibn Arabi's view, this is the justification that the similarity of God to the cosmos is inevitable. But of course, Ibn Arabi was not a proponent of tashbih. To conclude like this, we must be alerted to immediately get back to the fundamental principle in the teachings of Ibn Arabi, that is wahdatul wujud, unity of being. By answering this question, are all beings the wujud of Al-Haq? As we surely know, the answer is that all wujud is he and not he. Huwa la huwa. In the first answer, it is he. We know that this cosmos is Al-Haq. And this is the aspect of the similarity of Al-Haq with the cosmos. While in the second answer, it is not he. We know that this cosmos is not Al-Haq. And this shows the aspect of the incomparability of Al-Haq with the whole cosmos. Then, in which is the position of Ibn Arabi, the proponent of Tanzih or Tashbih? Again, we are led to enter into the principle of Al-Jam'u Bain al-Adad, coincidentia oppositorum, that Ibn Arabi understands Al-Haq to be both similar and incomparable, not either or. Therefore, it is quite clear that Ibn Arabi combines logical contradictions and puts forward his paradoxical standpoint. For some reason, most of us are trapped in one of both aspects, especially the aspects of Tanzih, incomparability, as if God were never close to us and can never be seen by the eye. So we feel difficult to experience an intimate God. It seems that this emphasis on the aspect of Tanzih is inevitably for monotheists. At this point, in respect of overemphasizing the incomparability of Al-Haq, Ibn Arabi comments on the way of Noah's exhortation to his people. We talk about it for a moment. Noah denied the value of the idols of those days, advocated monotheism, and openly called upon his people to worship God by way of Tanzih. In the Quran it is told, he said, "O my people, I am a clear warner unto you, that you may worship God. Reverence him and obey me, that he may forgive you some of your sins and grants you reprieve until a term appointed. Truly when the term of God comes, it will not be delayed, if you but knew." He said, "My Lord, I have called my people day and night, yet my calling has not increased them in aught but flight. Truly whenever I call them, that thou mayest forgive them, they put their fingers in their ears, cover themselves with their garments, persist and wax most arrogant." It should be noted that the words yaghfir and taghfir in English in the 4th and 7th verse derive from the word ghafara, to forgive, which literally means satara, to close. Satar, to close, is the opposite of zuhur, to unveil. Ibn Arabi says, "Then Noah reported that he had preached monotheism to his people so that God would cover for them the sins of tashbih, not for them to be exposed tashbih beside Tanzih. Therefore they put their fingers in their ears, cover themselves with their garments, persist and wax most arrogant." This was the closure Noah preached to them. They respond to his preaching with the action of denial, not with obedience. In order to be more understood, let's quote Afifi's commentary on this matter. The meaning of this verse is that Noah urged his people to worship God, so that God would forgive their sins. But yaghfira here, from the word ghafara, to forgive, according to Ibn Arabi, is taken from its literal meaning, that is satara, to close. A satar, closure, is the opposite of al-kashf, disclosure, and al-zuhur, appearance. Thus Ibn Arabi understands this verse to mean that Noah called upon his people to be in absolute closure, not in the position of unveiling and disclosure, because al-haq munazzah, transcendence is a mere closure or mystery that cannot be comprehended and perceived by reason and sight. Noah didn't ask his people to the possession of this closure, that is the self-manifestation of Al-Haq in existence. Those who are admonished, whatever their religion and whatever the object they worship, are in reality worshipping nothing other than Al-Haq. Even an idolater is worshipping Al-Haq in some of its forms of self-manifestation in the external world. To call upon the idolaters who are actually worshipping Al-Haq in this form and tell them not to worship the idols but to worship Al-Haq alone is liable to produce a false impression as if the idolaters were worshipping in the idols something other than Al-Haq, while in truth there is no other thing than Al-Haq in the whole cosmos. It is undeniably as recognized by Ibn Arabi himself that Noah urging his people to adhere to the principle of Tanzi is a historical necessity and this cannot be faulted. However, Ibn Arabi comments on, not to say criticized, Noah's stance because he overemphasized Tanzi and neglected Tashbih. Noah only forced his people to firmly hold the Tanzi and didn't ask them to hold the Tanzi as well as the Tashbih at the same time. In Ibn Arabi's specific term, Tanzi without Tashbih preached by Noah is Al-Furqan, which literally means separation or distinction, which means the separation between Al-Haq and Al-Khalq or creation, or between Tanzi and Tashbih. Izutsu explains, separating here means separating in a radical manner the aspect of unity from that of the diversified self-manifestation of the Absolute. Furqan thus means an absolute and radical Tanzi, an intransigent attitude of Tanzi which doesn't allow even of a touch of Tashbih. According to Ibn Arabi, the true way is Al-Quran. The latter term is used with an unusual meaning by Ibn Arabi. We know that Al-Quran is the holy book of Muslims, which is also known as Al-Furqan. In this context, Ibn Arabi uses the term Al-Quran in the sense of unification, merger or combination between Tanzi and Tashbih. In this respect, Ibn Arabi asserts, if Noah had combined the two calls to his people, they would have answered him. They, those who know God, understand that the people didn't respond to his call only because his call separated Furqan between the transcendence and the immanent aspects of Al-Haq, whereas one should combine the two aspects and not separate them. Whoever holds a combination of the two aspects doesn't pay attention to separation, even if he is in a state of separation, because the combination includes the separation and not vice versa. For this reason, only Muhammad and his community, which is the best community singled out for people, were distinguished by the Quran. The verse "there is nothing like him" combines the two aspects in one place. If Noah had uttered this verse, they would have answered him, for the Quran likens God to creation and doesn't liken him in the same verse, moreover even in half a verse. At the end of the quote just now, Ibn Arabi quotes the Quranic verse which, in English, "there is nothing like unto him, and he is all hearing, all seeing." This verse is used by Ibn Arabi as a key to apprehending how the Tanzi and Tashbih can be comprehended simultaneously. That within Tanzi, Tashbih is included, and within Tashbih, Tanzi is also included. Let's dissect this verse for a moment. Laisa means there is no, so the first thing to explain is kamithlihi, which consists of kaf, mithl, similar to, and he, him. Ka in this case can function as ta'kid, emphasis, so it doesn't have a special meaning like the expletive. So in this sense, the principle of Tanzi is emphasized in the first part of this verse, "there is nothing like unto him," while the second part of this verse emphasizes the aspect of Tashbih, and he is all hearing, all seeing, wa huwa sami'ul basir, because it is known that hearing and seeing are basically human faculties. So in such a meaning, this verse emphasizes Tanzi, then followed by Tashbih. Meanwhile, with the other analysis, ka, like, mithl, similar to, and he, him, ka is no longer a meaningless expletive and only as an emphasis as the first one, but it still carries its own meaning even in such a combination. So the verse is read like this: Laisa mithla mithlihi shay. There is nothing like anything similar to him. Here, anything similar to Al-Haq is initially posited mentally. Then the existence of anything similar to Al-Haq is categorically rejected. Considering the fact that at the beginning anything like him is established, it means that the reference to the similarity is nothing but our previous mental posit. That is the things similar to Al-Haq. Put simply, we are referring to God's dissimilarity by our posit of anything similar at the outset. In addition, language we use cannot express the perspective of incomparability without some information from similarity. Thus, the first part of this verse shows the aspect of tashbih of God, while the second part of this verse, and he is all-hearing, all-seeing, وَهُوَ السَّمِيعُ الْبَصِيرُ, shows the tanzi aspect with the grammatical note that the sentence structure with the pronominal subject huwa, he, put at the head of the sentence, and the following epithets sami, hearing, and basir, seeing, being determined by the article al or the, implies that he is the only sami and the only basir in the whole realm of being. In other words, absolutely no one hears and sees except Al-Haq himself, who hears and sees. So in such a meaning, the opposite of the first, this verse emphasizes tashbih first, then followed by tanzi. So after interpreting the verse in this way, it is easier for us to understand Ibn Arabi's own statement. It is God himself who purifies by saying Laisa kamithlihi shay, and likens by saying Wahuwa sami'ul basir. God imitates or calls himself double by saying Laisa kamithlihi shay. Then he purifies or calls himself as one to be unique by saying Wahuwa sami'ul basir. Most people, as I've already said it, are often trapped only in one aspect of Al-Haq, that is his incomparability, tanzi. We certainly know that they always try to deny the existence of Al-Haq as the outward, al-Zahir, because of the operation of reason in such a way which indeed negates the similarity of Al-Haq to anything. So this is where, according to Ibn Arabi, the operation of imagination, waham or khoyal in the strict term of Ibn Arabi, functions to lift in such a way the embeddedness of reason in the absolute tanzi. In this way, one can attain the perfect knowledge of Al-Haq, both his incomparability and similarity simultaneously. Let's summarize our discussion with a poem of Ibn Arabi. If you only hold his tanzi, you restrict him. And if only hold tashbih, you limit him. If you maintain both aspects, you are right, a leader and a master in spiritual knowledge. Whoever maintaining the duality of Al-Haq and the cosmos is a polytheist. Whoever isolating him tries to regulate him. Beware of tashbih if you profess duality, and beware of tanzi if you profess unity. You are not he and you are he, and you see him in the essences of things both boundless and limited at the same time. Eventually, we easily know what Ibn Arabi means by huwa la huwa, he and not he. The whole cosmos is he because of his tashbih, his similarity, and it is not he because of his tanzi, his incomparability. Thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. See you next time.